Hi there, I'm Jim Zirin. Welcome back to more Conversations in the Digital Age. The New York City Police Department is the largest police force in America, with a budget of over $5 billion and a uniformed force of 34,000 officers patrolling our streets. With us is Police Commissioner James P. O'Neill. Jimmy O'Neill was appointed as New York City's 43rd Police Commissioner in September 2016 to succeed William Bratton, who resigned to enter the private sector. He had been 33 years on the job. Commissioner O'Neill has served previously as Chief of Department, the NYPD's highest uniform rank. Since Commissioner O'Neill took office, New York City has seen lower crime and homicide rates and a renewed commitment to neighborhood policing coupled with improved police-community relations. Commissioner O'Neill, welcome.
Hi, Jim. Glad to be here.
Yes. Now, first, thanks for your service. And congratulations on the arrest in the Queens jogger case, which has been announced. And great police work. But I saw an important factor was a tip that you received from 911. Does that mean you have better community police relations?
I would hope so, and we are making vast improvements in community relations over the city since we instituted neighborhood policing. But that was a terrific job by the Detective Bureau, Chief Boyce and his people. Never gave up. Bob told me, I think it was probably the day it happened that he was going to solve this. And he's a man that's true to his word, and they did a terrific job. There's actually a lieutenant in his office that was instrumental in solving this this murder.
Well, it surely is wonderful news for the public and for the NYPD. Now, you are a new kid on the block. You took over in September 2016. What was the state of the NYPD when you took office?
I don't know about new kid on the block. I'm I'm working on my 35th year, so I don't know how new that is. I think we were in good shape. I worked for Commissioner Bratton a few times in the past. I worked for him when he was the chief of the transit police back in 1990. I worked for him again in 1994 when he came back, and then in 2014. And over the 31 months or 32 months that I worked with Commissioner Bratton, we did a lot of, we engaged in a re-engineering process, and it was important to do that with neighborhood policing, the strategic response group, a lot of changes. And as you see, the downward trajectory of crime is still there, and that's a great testament to the men and women of the NYPD and the people of this great city.
Well, the latest crime figures have been very positive, haven't they?
Yeah, 2016 was a great year for New York City, not just the NYPD, of course. Homicides were down, shootings were down, a raw number of 140, which is about 12% reduction in shootings, and overall crime was down about 4%. And we've been carefully tracking these stats since 1994, and to have a year where we could reduce shootings by over 12%, I think, is a tremendous achievement.
Now, is that because of better police work, or is it changes in society or in demographics? To what do you attribute the marvelous reduction in crime?
I don't, and I say this all the time. It can't, it's not just about the NYPD. It's about the people in the city. It's about our federal law enforcement partners. It's about the district attorney's offices all throughout the city. It's about the Eastern District, the Southern District, the Special Narcotics Court, all working together. And I think neighborhood policing is our way forward. The more trust that we can build with the community, I think the further down we can push crime.
Now, have you set any new priorities for yourself, Commissioner, since you took office? Anything different from what we saw under Bill Bratton?
I think that the thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that neighborhood policing is fully implemented in New York City. Right now, we're up and running in 35 precincts and all of the police service areas. Those are the police districts that cover housing. So I think to fully implement that would be one of my goals, and of course to keep that downward crime trajectory.
Well, in the course of Bill Bratton's tenure, it seemed that there was a deterioration in the relationship between communities and the police. What has changed?
My experience is somewhat different than Commissioner Bratton's. I think somewhat different from Commissioner Kelly's too. I've been a cop since 1983. I was lucky enough to be a precinct commander in 3 precincts for about 6.5 years, and I think that is instrumental in being where I am today. I had the Central Park precinct for 2 years. I had the 2-5, which is in East Harlem. I had that for 2 years. I had that during 9/11. Then I had the 4-4 in the South Bronx. And I think that I had that for 2.5 years. And I think the most important thing that I learned is that if you're going to be effective, you're going to have a great relationship with the people in your community. And we have the community council, but it's got to be beyond that. It's got to be, and I attended a lot of meetings when I was a precinct commander, tenant association meetings, business meetings. And so I think everybody has to see that you want what they want, and that's to live in peace.
You took office in September 2016, and about 48 hours after you were running the police department, we had a bombing in Chelsea. What went through your mind when you heard about that?
It was actually, I got sworn in on the 16th, and the bombing happened Saturday evening the next night, so it was a little less than 48 hours, probably about 26 hours. Now I was driving. I got a phone call from one of my sergeants, Dan Shelley, and it first came over that it was that a bus had exploded on 23rd Street. So, I was taken aback. But then I thought about my years in this police department. These are thoughts that went through my mind, and all the confidence that I have in the people that work here. And again, not just us. It's the FBI, the ATF, the state police. And I knew if we all came together that we could solve this. And we had somebody ID'd within 35 hours, and we were able to make an apprehension with 50 hours. There was the Linden, New Jersey Police Department apprehended him after a shootout.
Now, ATF is alcohol and tobacco
and firearms.
And firearms.
Right.
So it's a federal agency.
Correct.
With whom you work closely. Now, of course, we're all worried about terrorism in New York. We've been very much worried since 9/11. How many terrorist attacks have been thwarted since 9/11 in New York City?
It's been over 20, but we are constantly monitoring the threat stream. And just to talk to, I guess, to make people, not only in New York City, but in the state and the country feel a little bit more comfortable. The way we do it is threefold. We have to make sure we have the ability to investigate. And we do that through the Joint Terrorist Task Force, and we do have a great relationship with the FBI, and that hasn't always been the case. Bill Sweeney is the assistant director in charge. He was there on the 17th at the Chelsea bombing, as was Carlos Fernandez, his counterterrorism person. So I think to move through this, we have to be able to investigate. We also have to be able to prevent. And part of that's investigation, but it's also to have a strong uniform presence. And we do that through our strategic response group and our critical response command. I think if they go around the city and they look at iconic locations, sensitive locations, they'll see out there's cars that have CRC on the side of it. And that's the CRC, that's our critical response command. These are highly trained cops. We put them out at locations where they're seen by the public, sensitive, iconic locations. And if anything does happen, they do have the ability to respond along with our strategic response group.
Now, one of the things that certainly the public has heard a lot about is the Muslim community, and you have a large Muslim community in New York City. Most of them are citizens or permanent residents of the United States. Some perhaps are here on visas. Do they require any intensive scrutiny, in your view, as a possible terrorist threat?
I think to make sure everybody in this city is safe, we have to have a great relationship with every community all throughout New York City, and I think we do. We have over 800 Muslim police officers in the NYPD. They have a couple of fraternal groups that they're part of. And I think that helps us move forward, and again, that helps us build trust.
Now, at the time of the Chelsea bombing, you won very high marks for being low-key and unflappable and talking to the public, sharing with them what the facts were, and I think you were a great calming influence. Do you attribute that to your long experience in the police force, or is it just your nature?
I think it's a little bit of both. I come from a large family, so I think my mom always taught us never to get too excited, because if you don't remain calm, no one will remain calm. But I think my experience within the New York City Police Department was definitely helped me. I started out as a transit cop a long time ago in '83, riding the subways from 8 at night to 4 in the morning. I came over to the NYPD when all three police departments merged in 1995. Housing, Transit, and NYPD merged together. And I think definitely being a precinct commander helped me understand that if you're going to get through something, you have to be able to think clearly and remain calm. But after that, I went to the Vice Division. I went to the Narcotics Division. I went to the Fugitive Division. I became Chief of Patrol, Chief of Department. So I think each and every one of those positions it helped me move forward in my leadership capabilities.
As part of your counterterrorism strategy, are you continuing to have officers stationed in foreign countries where terrorist attacks occur?
Yeah, we do. We have a terrific liaison program. We're in over a dozen cities around the world. And what that enables us to do is to get, in the event of an attack anywhere, we're able to get real-time feedback back to New York City through John Miller, who's our Deputy Commissioner of Counterterrorism and Intel. And this way he can work with Jim Waters and our Chief of Patrol, Terry Monahan, to make sure that we rapidly deploy people to the current threat.
Now, of course, the term on everyone's lips these days are immigrants. We have an immigrant population in New York City. We have probably a large number of undocumented immigrants. Is there any relationship between arrests of criminals and the immigrant population? You see more immigrants arrested for crimes, say violence, murder, and such crimes, than particularly undocumented immigrants, than you do people who are here legally?
So as the commissioner of the city, my job is to keep people safe, and that's our primary responsibility. And I'm not looking at people's immigration status. I'm looking at whether or not they're contributing to the safety of the city. There are some instances where when we arrest people that they do get turned over to the federal authorities, but they have to have committed a violent crime or be on some sort of terrorist screening database, and it has to be a federal warrant. As far as the numbers, it's estimated that there's about 500,000 undocumented immigrants in New York City. And again, through neighborhood policing, we're here to build trust. We have to make sure that we reach out to these communities and make sure that if they are victims of crime, that they trust us and we can help solve whatever their issues are and make life better for them.
Now, New York City is part of the Sanctuary Cities program. Isn't that right?
Well, New York City is, we do have certain ways in which we deal with the federal government when it comes to undocumented immigrants, and that's what I was just talking about, the federal warrants, that if we arrest someone and they get a notification that we have someone in custody, there's certain protocol that has to be followed. And there's a list of about 170 crimes where we'll turn somebody over to the federal authorities. And that's usually violent or serious crimes.
Those are the more serious crimes.
Right. Correct.
So if an undocumented immigrant is arrested for, say, a misdemeanor or being drunk and disorderly or a minor crime of that sort, you would not, and it's part of your policy, not to turn that information over to the federal government.
Not unless there was a federal warrant. And again, it has to be for a violent or serious crime or part of they have to be listed on a terrorist screening database.
Now, how is New York City responding to the threat coming from the Trump administration that they would defund aid to New York City if you continue with the Sanctuary Cities program?
You know, we move forward. I think we do a great job of keeping people in the city safe. You know, that's to be worked out in the future, but right now we're going to continue to keep the people of the city safe, and we're not going to get distracted.
Now, what about the protection of the president? Approximately how many officers are deployed in and around Trump Towers every day?
56th Street and Fifth Avenue, it's a difficult location for us. I think 57th and 5th is probably one of the busiest intersections in the city, so it does require hundreds of police officers, traffic agents, and there's also uniform and Secret Service up that location too. So it is very costly. We're looking to get reimbursed from the federal government for the time period from election day to when Mr. Trump was inaugurated and going forward. If he's not there, the costs are a little bit less, but we still need that reimbursement so we can make sure that we continue to, it doesn't tax our resources.
So there's a great deal of overtime involved, isn't there, in round-the-clock protection of the president?
Yeah, the people that we assign there, that's not their permanent assignment, so they're coming from all around the city. So as we do that, we have to backfill the precincts, the districts, the PSAs to make sure that we keep everybody in the city safe.
And roughly how much is it costing the city every day to protect the president?
I know for the time period between election and Mr. Trump's inauguration, it was about $500,000 a day.
$500,000 a day. Yeah. At times when the president is in the White House or he's in Palm Beach or wherever, that involves fewer police officers in the protection detail, does it not?
Yeah, there's a reduction in personnel, but it's still, Trump Tower has become a tourist attraction, so we still get a tremendous volume of pedestrians. And there's a tremendous volume of vehicular traffic that goes down Fifth Avenue also.
You spoke, I think, about the neighborhood policing model. And have you instituted anything specific in furtherance of that policy since you took office?
Yeah, let me just give you a quick recap of what neighborhood policing is. Prior to neighborhood policing, and with my background, I fully understand where we needed to go. If I was a precinct commander and I had 100, 200, 300 cops, half those police officers would be responding to 911 calls. And believe it or not, even in the less busy precincts, one sector car could handle anywhere between 15 and 30 radio runs in an 8-hour shift. So where in that model of policing does anyone have any time to make a connection to the community? The other half of the precinct would be engaged in some type of summary police work. Either doing anti-crime, low-level drug work, domestic violence, which we still kept our domestic violence teams intact, maybe traffic or some administrative work. So they're not really, they don't really have the time to make that connection either. Prior to neighborhood policing, it was the precinct commander or the 2 or 3 community affairs police officers that did that work. For this to work, for us to move forward, to us to have a better connection with the community, it's got to be everybody in the precinct, and it really has to be the cops doing the job. So what we did was we resected the neighborhood policing commands. In my old precinct up in the 4-4, it's 1.9 square miles, about 150,000 people.
Where in the city is that?
It's in the South Bronx. It's in right by Yankee Stadium. It was, without a doubt, the best place I've ever worked in my 34 years. There were 18 sectors up there. The line's kind of arbitrarily drawn. So what we did, we went back to the 4-4 and resected it into natural neighborhoods. So now it's 5 sectors. And we put the same cops in there every day in the same sectors, and we created a new position too called the Neighborhood Coordination Officer. And the NCO's responsibility is 2 per sector. They're the conduit between the community and the sector cops. You're not going to get to know everybody. You know, the 4-4 is a big place, 150,000 people, 5 sectors. The big thing about this is, besides all the training we've given the NCOs and the sector cops, because you can't just wave a magic wand and think everybody's going to change the way they do business, is that we're shooting to give the police officers a third of their day where they're not responding to 911 calls. This way they have the opportunity to attend community meetings, tenant meetings, and address quality of life conditions. So it's a sea change in the way we're doing business, but the cops like it, and the community, anecdotally, we're getting great feedback, and we're in the process of launching real-time surveys that we'll get back from the community. That's going to be done over people's smartphones. We'll get a good indicator of how we're doing down to the sector level.
Is the presence of minority officers in minority communities a factor in neighborhood policing?
Yeah, I think that we need to have a police department that reflects the diversity of the city, and we're there. You know, our recruitment drive is very robust. We have to make sure that that people know what a great job this is, and how if you become a New York City police officer, you have a chance to make a difference and to lead a significant life. And we just had a filing on December 27th. The 14,000 seats we had available for the test, they were filled up in a matter of days, and now we're going to have another test in March. So we are getting the recruits, the candidates, and the diversity.
Are you still using the CompStat approach of designating high crime impact zones within the city and deploying additional police officers, perhaps even rookie police officers, to those areas that you find to be unsafe or high crime areas?
We drew down all of the impact areas. Impact was a program, and I think short term it had a very positive effect on crime, but long term I think it did some damage to our police officers and the community too. Impact is where you take the brand new recruits, take them out of the academy, put them in the busiest precincts and the busiest sectors within those precincts. Not a good way to train your cops. We've changed the way we train our police officers once they come out of the academy. If I'm a new cop, I can go to any precinct, any transit district or any housing PSA, and I get assigned, myself and another recruit get assigned to an FTO. You do 2 months of days, 2 months of 4 to 12s, and 2 months of midnights. This way you get a feel for the entire 24-hour period.
And an FTO, my head is spinning with
Field training officer, I'm sorry,
okay.
Field training officer. We have a lot of acronyms.
Yes. Well, that's understandable. Now, of course, there's great concern in the community about possible excessive use of force by the police and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which has, of course, dramatically affected police training and police conduct. What has been your reaction to that in New York City?
Well, November and December of 2014 were very difficult times to be police officers in New York City, not only New York City, around the country. I know it was a very difficult time for me. I got promoted to chief of department early November. The Ferguson decision was the end of November 2014. Garner was December 2014, culminating. We had Joe Liu and Rafael Ramos were assassinated back in late December 2014. That was, for me, I always had plans to push forward with neighborhood policing, but I knew with the events of late 2014, we did have to change the way we do business. We do have to build trust. And I think if we're going to continue to push crime down, that's the only way forward.
Well, that was the funeral of the two police officers where a number of police officers turned their back on the mayor. And it was sort of a dreadful time in police relations and relations between the police and the mayor. Has that improved at all?
I think it is. We just settled the contract last week for the PBA. But just to go back to December of 2014, I'm not a person that gets upset very often, but the day that happened, the night that happened when Joe and Raphael were brutally murdered, I was really upset with Pat Lynch. But I've known Pat a long time. Had to move forward.
Pat Lynch, the president of the PBA.
Yep, he represents over 20,000 members of his union. So working with the mayor, we're able to get a contract for the police officers. So I think that's settled down.
And part of that contract was that the police are obligated to wear body cameras.
Right.
And that will be deployed when, in 2018?
No. We have plans to get 1,000 cameras out, hopefully within the next month or two. Working with Peter Zimroth, who is our federal monitor. There was a little setback, I think, last week with the contract, but I think we'll be able to work through that and make sure that we get 1,000 cameras out there to work with Peter to make sure that we get through that monitorship. But,
wasn't there a glitch that some of the cameras didn't work properly?
We did a tremendous amount of vetting. We had a 9-person panel look at all these vendors. When we first started talking about body-worn cameras, we had maybe 4 vendors. By the time the contract proposals went out, it was over 50 vendors. So that contract was vetted. We're happy with the company that won that contract. And we just want to move forward because I think body-worn cameras are going to be instrumental in helping us build trust with the community because it's a de-escalator for the community and it's also a de-escalator for the police.
Was the lack of respect you saw at the end of 2014 on the part of some police officers, quite a large number actually, and the mayor, what do you think the source of that was? What was the basis for that?
I'm not really sure. I think it was probably a couple of comments the mayor made in the beginning of his tenure. But there's always been that adversarial relationship between the PBA and prior mayors too. But I think we're in the process of repairing it. Again, with this contract settlement, the mayor and Pat Lynch stood side by side at a press conference last week, and to me that's real progress.
Do you think the PBA will support the mayor's bid for re-election?
I haven't spoken to Pat about that.
He hasn't mentioned that.
No.
And what about your own relationship with the mayor? And did you know him before you took office as commissioner?
I did know him when I was chief of patrol and chief of department. I worked with him very closely, him and Tony Shores and a few other people over at City Hall. I have a great relationship with him. I think that he is so insightful. He is so helpful. At the beginning of the program, you mentioned that we were at 34,000 police officers. We're actually at 36,000 now, and working with the city council and the mayor, we were able to increase the head count for the New York City Police Department for the first time since 2001. So whatever we need, of course we have to carefully explain it and make sure that it's a necessity. He helps us do our job, and I like working for the guy. He's a good guy to work for.
Good guy to work for. So I have a question for you, Jimmy O'Neill. Is the NYPD about to enter a new era under your leadership?
I don't think I've stated that dramatically, but what I want is there's three things I want. I want the community to be satisfied with this police department. I want the cops to be satisfied with their job, to be happy at what they do. Because I know I love being a cop and I want them to love that too. And I also want to make sure that we keep crime going down, because that's our moral obligation. We can never stop. We can never be satisfied. We have to keep trying to push crime down.
Well, that's a great aspiration. Commissioner O'Neill, thank you so much
Thanks,
for coming
Jim.
by. This has been just wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more conversations in the digital age. I'm Jim Zirin. All the best and take care.